All right, guys, welcome back to the Fed Show. We're here with Dunnu. Bro, I've said your name so many times, and I've gone back and watched videos of you introducing yourself, but it's Dunnu, right?
Yeah.
Just like that. And but I feel like I want to put like a U at the beginning, like Dunnu, but it's like no, it's Dunnu. And I heard you say it, and I was like, okay, I can say it. And I do that. I swear to God, I sit there and I'm like,
I've heard some crazy things, man. Like I just don't get it. Like I guess I feel like people see me and they're like, he's something, he's Indian, he's this, he's that. Like they just want to complicate it. And
yeah.
I've heard like I'll be like, duh, no. Like I'll just break it down like that, and people will be like, you knew, and I don't know. I've heard some wild stuff. Like I don't know.
Yeah. Oh, so let's go back to how we met. We met at a was it here Fort Worth or was
It was here Fort Worth.
at Printed Threads?
Yes.
And it was like the tax class
Yeah.
or the money income and all that, what you can claim, what you can't claim.
Mm-hmm.
And that was in my drinking days, so I just showed up for alcohol and pizza, basically, and just kind
There's
of
both good options for that.
just kind of one of those mingling things. And we chopped it up that night, and then we tried to set a date, and then I had some stuff on my end, and it kind of just fell apart. And then we tried to set it up again, but scheduling was off. So you were in town. You were like,
Yeah.
I'm going to be in town. I was like, I'll try to set it up as quick as we could because I know we're going to turn around, and then we'll be trying to do it. And you'd be like, oh, I got to leave here. And then, so that's why I was like, all right, man, let's just do it. But yeah, so we met like that. And I think after that, I was supposed to go to your video release
Yeah.
that you did on 7th at, what was it,
Bar 2909.
2909?
Yeah.
And I got crossfaded in the parking lot at
Yes.
Martin House. Bro, it was a rough
I remember when you
day.
texted me. I was like, oh my gosh.
I was like, bro, I'm not gonna make it, man. Like, I'm not gonna be there. I'm sorry. And I was supposed to go to another show in Oak Cliff that night. I was supposed to go to that and then go out there, and I missed both of them. And I just got home and I just crashed out. Like I sat in that parking lot for like 6 hours.
Yeah, I remember you're like, hey, bro, I just woke up in the park. I was like, well, I don't know what you saying right now, man, but like, I hope you good.
It was bad.
I was like, don't even worry about it, bro. Like, if you need to rest up, rest up. Like, do not drive, whatever you do. Yeah, that was crazy.
Yeah, I slept for like 5 or 6 hours. But yeah, so let's go into the music video.
Yeah.
Which, where did y'all shoot that at?
That was actually ironic. I haven't said it publicly, but like, or maybe I did, I don't know. But it was actually downtown Dallas.
Yeah.
So a lot of people know like Clyde Warren Park. You know, like that park right there is like, have you ever been to that park?
I think I have.
Yeah.
Is that
It's the one on top of the highway, technically. Like, it's just a big square. It's right there in the middle, and there's like, you see all the buildings right around.
Nope, I haven't been to that park.
Okay. It's pretty cool. I mean, I think the most random feature that I thought was cool is they got Wi-Fi at the park, which is really cool. Like, people just pull up and they just get stuff done. You know what I mean?
I mean, yeah, honestly.
Yeah, so it's really cool. So yeah, we shot it at our bank building. So the nonprofit that we have, NRVE, we shot it at that bank building, and then we did like a promo campaign, and we kind of like tied it together to where the release of the music video actually served as a fundraiser.
Okay.
So it was kind of like knock out two birds with one stone.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And that's one of the one things that when we first met, like we had talked about, you had a lot of stuff going.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it annoys me.
And honestly, it's like there's a lot of artists that are just artists,
right.
And there's a lot of philanthropists or nonprofit organizations that are trying to do good in the community. But I mean, honestly, I don't know anybody else but you that's doing it the way that you're doing it, because like your social media is cross-branded, like it's all through and through, like together, almost one thing, but it's not.
Right.
And that's why I was like, and it intrigued me, and then me going through my issues, not acknowledging my mental health and drinking too much, it kind of pushed me towards going this direction. So I was like, man, it's better that we came on now, because we have more to talk about.
Yeah.
Because the last time I would have just been drunk, like, hey, bro, so
hey, can you give me another one?
Yeah, you want another beer or what? So back to the music video. How did y'all get the concept of that? Like, because one of the things that stands out in the music video is the reflection of you upside down in the mirror on the table when they're playing on the table. Mm. And I was like, the concept was like, I mean, y'all angled it perfectly and just shot right directly into it, and you picked up the shot that y'all wanted.
Yeah.
Like, how'd y'all come up with that? It was just
that one was actually on the fly. So I'm not positive that I told this story, but crazy enough, we shot the music video that day, And the last scene, we're popping champagne bottles and stuff like that. Unfortunately, that scene is the reason why the other scene you're talking about exists.
Mm-hmm.
So that champagne scene actually got on the camera, and it wiped half of the shoot day.
Dang.
Half of the whole shoot day was gone. And so we got done with the scene. We're about to go celebrate. You know, it's downtown over there. And so, like, there's, like, you know, whatever, some bars and stuff. We're going to just go pull up, go celebrate. And my videographer's like, hey, bro, like, yeah, let's check out the footage real quick. I was like, yeah, absolutely. And he's like, I was like, what's up? There was no footage. And so we were tripping. And I'm like, bro, there's no way I can pull this back off because it was on a Saturday. Bank's closed. They open it up just for us. They don't do that. And it's a corporate building. It's not like a 1-2 story. This is a skyscraper, right? So they opened up the building for us and everything. And so, like, we fast forwarded from there, and then what happened was it worked out well. I think it was like, you know, God willing. But one of the artists that I really loved, you know, Cure for Paranoia?
Mm-mm.
Okay, so Dallas-based artist. His name's Cameron McLeod. Dope. Like, basically think about like a young Three Stacks.
Okay.
Dude's crazy. Like, just dude's wild. Crazy bars, very talented, singer, rapper, all of it. And I wanted him to come to the shoot, couldn't make it. And so because of that, my videographer's like, bro, that's on me. I should have had a guard on it, you know, whatever, all of this. I'll book a new spot. So we booked a spot close to the farmer's market in Dallas, empty warehouse, whatever. And that was the second shoot day. Cameron was able to make it. So that's when that scene came up. But to answer your question, how that came up was at the bank, there was just this like random thing. And we were like, and we were talking about the messaging of the music video and everything. And he's like, yeah, bro, I think this would be like, you know, like a flip message. And I love this scene. And it like shows like the, you know, because we're basically talking about how like one message about loot is talking about money, but really the whole message was something different. So we're, and it was this idea. And then we just saw something laying on a table, and that's what it led to. And so when we recreated it, we had to go to like, I don't know, like Michael's or something like that, and find some like little mirror table. Like,
you said like Michael or something.
I don't know,
like that.
Ross. I don't know. Like, shout out to Ross.
So clearly you're proud of the video. It came out great. I mean,
Thank you.
The time and the effort. I mean, it really shows. Because I mean, there's a lot of videos that come out, and I don't like. I've started noticing production quality on things after I started recording a podcast, and I was like, man, some of these early videos are terrible. Like the camera angle's all off, the lighting's terrible. Oh man, you can't even hear what I'm saying in this one, or the camera will just like shift down and no one noticed.
Yeah.
So you got like half a podcast where it's just like pointing down at just the drinks and the steering wheel, because I used to record the podcast in a car while I was drinking.
Word.
Real bad. So yeah, we'll get off of that topic though, but let's get into NRVE. So the first thing, like, just explain kind of what that is.
Yeah. So NRVE is, we're a mental health nonprofit. Our mission is helping people become healthy people. So we have 6 different pillars. So we focus on youth, homelessness, substance abuse, domestic violence. I'm blanking right now, but substance abuse, domestic violence, suicide prevention, and then veterans. And so those are our 6 focuses. And what we decided on, like, through that whole process, I originally started the company with the idea for substance abuse, because I lost 3 specific homies, and before it was called NRVE, it was actually called FNJ Fund, or Foundation, and it stood for their last names. So it was Ford, Neat, Jet, it was their last names. And they, you know, unfortunately passed in that order. And childhood friends, very influential, whatever have you. And then the long story short was, my accountant and attorney, the way I originally wanted to do it, I was actually trying to make it just a nonprofit arm of my health company, Holisic.
Yeah.
And they were just like, hey, that just can't be a thing. It's going to have a conflict of interest, whatever. So then NRVE was born. So it was F&J. And then when we started, like, as I started recruiting some of my board members and things of that sort, you know, we started talking about, like, what it really meant, like, for substance abuse in general. The next thing you knew, it kind of, like, expanded beyond the fact that, like, a lot of these problems aren't just, like, they're not just singular, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, they're tethered to other things.
Yeah, like other things lead to the substance abuse.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Or vice versa. Substance abuse leads to something else. Like,
exactly.
So it's so, like, I'm not gonna lie, like, it's a,
because you would have basically been helping in all those other areas.
Anyways.
Just saying, oh, we're helping with substance abuse, but you're already addressing all those other issues.
Yeah, and so, like, our board members essentially were able to kind of, like, open up the whole conversation of, like, well, like, what are these, like, 80-20 principle, what are the 20% of, like, big problems in society that cause 80% of, like, just stuff going on, right?
Yeah.
And we narrowed it down to those 6.
Yeah.
And they're huge.
Yeah, they are.
Huge
I mean, you
problems.
can name, I mean, the majority of, like, with those, you can pretty much sum up just about every
Society's
yeah,
problems.
yeah.
Like,
Oh well, this happened, so this is why I do this, and yeah. So well, my next question was what inspired it. We just talked about that
yeah, yeah.
you losing friends and that, and then so how's that going right now?
It's good. We've had a couple of transitions, which has been nothing but a learning curve. So the first, like, I would say the first 3 to 6 months was really because we're positioned more as like a data company, truthfully.
Okay.
And so like the way that we position ourselves is like within those 6 key focuses, we've partnered with different nonprofits over the past many months, and we've just been learning from people. So we've learned that like honestly, a lot of people kind of approach these problems with a solution already in mind,
Yeah.
right? Like they're very like, hey, this is it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, respectfully speaking, like I respect everybody's hard work that they're putting in out there. But like if that was the case, then the problem would have been solved.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like at the end of the day, we're at this position where like, hey, we need to like kind of really collect a big picture and know what to do before we just say, hey, let's launch this program.
Yeah.
So like this whole first year has been focused on and is going to continue to be focused on is like we need to better understand the problem.
Yeah.
That's why we've been doing things like, you know, our social solutions event, which is like every quarter, which is actually tomorrow. Every quarter we do this open discussion, you know, community event. This year's focus is homelessness. So talking about how to like end homelessness in DFW. The idea
Yeah.
is like crowdsource solutions, talk to the people dealing with the problem, better understand, get data. We're working on some databases right now and things
Yeah.
of that sort. So
I mean, basically, you're doing the research before you. Well, the thing is, so if I have $100 and I want to invest in something,
what are you
I
gonna do?
want to know what I'm investing in.
Exactly.
So I mean, basically, the concept is you're putting your time and effort into something, and money's going to flow into this. So I mean, you're doing the right thing right now because if you just if you say, oh, we're going to help start a program that can use government money to build houses.
Right.
Well, what's the significance of how do you get into these houses? How are they going to live there? Like the only things in Fort Worth that I know of that they haven't been successful, but they've been helpful to the
Right.
homeless are like the Union Gospel Mission they have, and then the homeless shelters down
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
Those are helpful
They are.
because
They're great.
they feed the people. The people that I mean we've thrown an event down there with the church I was with where we just showed up with this dude. He brought like 200 plates of barbecue.
That's awesome.
He cooked right there. He just handed the food out. And if he there was like, well, there's no one else coming, he goes, all right, here's another plate.
Right.
Because it was like, I mean, I cooked it for y'all. I came out here to help. So they're necessities. A lot of people need that stuff. And I had a family member that lived in the women's. It's not a halfway house, but it's an apartment setup.
Okay.
And they help you find a job. They help provide daycare. If you're like a single mother coming out of an abusive relationship,
Yep. Domestic violence.
yeah. So they offer a service of like, hey, we'll put you up in this room for this amount of time. They have their rules and regulations and everything you have to follow to live there. But I mean, for some people, it's been great. It helps put them in a job. They can actually sustain a lifestyle after that. They move out and they live their life.
That's the goal. The
And
goal is sustainable lifestyle.
exactly, and that's what I mean. That's the biggest thing that you're doing the research because with anything, I think everyone already preconceives in their head, this is how you fix it. This is how you
Yeah.
fix it.
They're like, this is it.
So then someone will just dump money. They'll take donations and they'll fund money into something,
Exactly.
and it'll be a waste.
Yeah. We have like this is like just while we're on the topic, like this is just like a grandiose like idea that we really are curious about. But like my curiosity is if there was a system out there that could kind of like grade nonprofits,
Yeah.
I guarantee that would clean up the industry like tremendously. Because like you said, there's so many nonprofit, great intention,
Yeah.
terrible execution.
Because there's no Better Business Bureau for nonprofits.
Exactly.
There's no one to say like, okay, so what y'all's bottom end look like? I know you're a nonprofit, but how much money? What does your turnaround look like?
Yeah.
And I mean, yeah,
It's,
honestly,
it's tough, man. It's a big problem.
and it's not to like put anyone down.
Sure,
but
sure.
But it's the same topic. Anytime you're having a disagreement with someone and you have an argument, you have in your head why you are right, and
Right.
they have in their head why they are right, and no one can ever communicate back and forth as to I'll listen to your side if you listen to my side.
They're just talking points at each other.
You just want to throw in another person's face, and it's like I mean, that 90% of communication problems in this world would be changed if we would say, okay, let me listen to your side, but you have to listen to me too. Like, we'll have a real conversation, and I'll look at it from your perspective.
Yeah.
Because even some people that listen, they're just like, all right, I'm just gonna let you talk.
Yeah, they're not engaged.
Yeah,
They're just
you're
like,
not
yeah, go ahead,
engaged.
finish up.
Yeah.
Go ahead, make your point.
And so, like, I had me and my cousin, we tried to do a podcast episode talking about gun violence. And
That's a tough one.
we recorded a podcast on a Sunday morning, and we were supposed to do a podcast, and then we were gonna go eat breakfast. And I was like, "You good?" He's like, "Yeah." So we sit there and talk about it, and I went back through it, and I said it on the failed podcast. We sound like a couple of rednecks, bro. Like, this is Texas. I want my guns.
Yeah.
And I was just like, but I hear the other side of the argument. Like, I don't think everyone needs an AR-15. I don't think that everyone needs the ability to own 15 handguns. But at the same time, I can hear the argument from basically what I was brought up with, like, to protect ourselves, the Second Amendment. Like, I get it. I get both ends. And my kids go to school, so when the school shootings happen, it's like, man, like, this is getting closer and closer to home.
Yep.
But how do we prevent it? It's a no-gun zone. They're not supposed to have guns there anyway.
Yeah.
But criminals don't care what the laws are. That's why they're criminals.
Right.
So those conversations, and like I've yet to have a conversation where anyone has any real solutions other than take away all guns or everyone needs a gun, one or the other. And there's like no in between.
Yeah, it's like, that's a conversation we have a lot, is honestly the world's just getting polarized. Like heavily polarized. There are people that are it's getting spread further and further on either side, like you said, on any topic. Yeah. It's just getting further spread on either side, and then all of a sudden what you notice is people just don't want to talk no more.
Yeah.
You know? Like,
because they take it to the extent of black and white. There's no gray area anymore. But depending upon what side you're on, you think you're the white light, you're the savior, and that black is the evil. And the person on the other side thinks you're the same thing. Like, no, guys, we're not on the same side here, but there has to be a common ground.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's one thing. Like, a lot of people, they don't want to talk. They don't want to engage. They don't want to get canceled. They don't want to say something that rubs someone the wrong way. And, like, I had another guest on the podcast, and he was just like, yeah, man, say it with your chest. Don't have a close friends list on Instagram. Like,
hey, I like that.
If you're going to say it, you think it's funny enough to put it on to, like, 15 of your buddies, then just put it to everybody. Because those 15 people are probably the only ones paying attention to you anyway.
Fair.
And some people are like, well, I'm a public figure. It's like, bro, you're not a public figure. You are, but you're not.
No, you're not lying one bit. Yeah, I think at the end of the day, the biggest point is people are just getting, like, soft. And when I say soft, I'm not saying, like, oh, you're a soft person. What I'm saying is, like, soft with your, like, viewpoints. Yeah. And at some point, it gets so watered down that I'm like, first off, do you even believe in anything?
Yeah.
You know, like, do you? Because, like, anytime you're just kind of doing this little political dance around stuff, and you're never really saying what you think. And then people are like, I get it, because in a way, yes, technically you're more likable that way.
Yeah.
And you have more access to things or people or whatever. But at the end of the day, I'm like, that access isn't granting you nothing because they don't even know what you're talking about.
Exactly.
Or what you're trying to do.
Yeah.
If you're even trying to do anything.
I feel like nowadays it's the easiest way to finish the conversation is what you agree with.
Yeah.
Like, if someone walks up to you, I don't believe in abortion. You know, it's bad. I don't believe in it either.
Yeah.
But then another guy walks up and says, abortion's the greatest thing ever. Then you sit there and you say, yeah, man, it's great. And you just walk away because you're like, I don't want to talk about none of this.
Yeah.
Like, and you can't say no comment because then they're going to be like, oh, no, what do you believe?
Right.
So you kind of just like, oh, let me hear you out. And it's a lot to process. And I think that's another reason our mental health issues are getting bigger and bigger, and we hear about it more because people are bottling everything up.
Yeah.
Because they don't have an outlet. They don't have anywhere to talk about anything at.
Yeah. No, you're not lying. Like, I think the biggest thing that we're recognizing is and I'm just talking about, like, people that are cognizant of this, like the conversations we're having and these platforms, you know, thanks to, you know, people like yourself, like, I think it's so important for people to actually express themselves, but you're right. People just can't, first off, because of cancel culture. And then you're right. There are people that believe they're, you know, I'm not trying to say you're not that thing, but there's people that really have this figment of, like, I'm this character. so I can't like talk. I'm like, bro, you're not the president, respectfully. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like,
Everybody feels like they're Denzel.
right. And, hey, I mean, to be Denzel is blasphemous to even say out loud.
And
I'm
then
like, come on, bro,
everyone,
nobody
like,
Denzel.
I'm a little bit Denzel.
Yeah, like,
that's
no, you're
that's
not.
a comedian's
Yeah,
joke.
I'm like, no, you're
Chris
not.
D'Elia came up with that, but he was like, everybody thinks that they're Denzel
Yeah.
and they're in their own movie.
Yeah.
But you're not.
Yeah.
You're like.
Well, the irony is, I'll even like play devil's advocate on that. It's like, yes, you are, but Denzel wouldn't do what you're doing. See, that's the irony. It's like, it's not that you should be your main character.
Yeah.
Right? Like, that's not, I'm not trying to promote the narrative of like take a background seat. But
Yeah.
it's like, for real, be Denzel then.
Yeah.
Because Denzel's going to tell it how he sees it.
Yeah.
Because go look at his interviews, go look at stuff. He has a no bullshit character.
Yeah.
Right? And so
that's just him real life.
Yeah, that's just him. He's just like, he's abrasive. Is what the world would call it, but abrasion isn't bad. Or, you know, like a big thing that's a big discussion in the point of the mental health world right now is the concept of like anxiety. Like in America especially, we've turned it into such a negative buzzword. And like, I feel like, first off, not even people forgot because they never knew in the first place. Anxiety has never been a bad word. Anxiety is just the reflection of the body recognizing something and you're being alert.
Yeah.
You're in a state of alertness.
Yeah.
That's it. The irony is we've taken the moment where you're alert and made that a negative thing.
Yeah.
So now when the alertness comes, which is supposed to happen, and we didn't teach people what to do with that, right? Then the people are like, oh my God, I'm feeling that alertness. I'm like, okay, that's good. You want your body to do that.
You're alive.
Yeah, because somebody might be saying something like crazy that you don't believe in, and that's why you're alert. Or somebody is saying something that you're like morally like, I don't think that that's right for that person to say that to the next person.
Yeah.
And maybe it's a decent environment, like a couple of friends. I'm not saying some stranger go be Superman or something, but like whatever it is, like, and now you're just shut down mode because you're not being taught to like allow that to happen.
Yeah.
And the key is, what do you do after? Because that's the fork in the road.
Yeah.
But now the fork's not even, we just see the stem.
Yeah.
You don't even see the fork aspect of like, well, which way do I go? They're just shut down now. Because we've been taught to be like, oh, you're feeling anxious. And I'm like, okay, and?
But that's like feeling anxious, anxiety, like first date. When you were a kid.
It's a great thing.
And you're about to get that first date. You got your outfit picked out. You got your shirt. Oh, man, it's going to be fun. We're going to go to the movies. I'm going to buy popcorn. We got drinks, candy. We're going to hold hands. Maybe we get to kiss. Like, you're excited. And I feel like anxiety and excitement.
Same thing.
You're excited about a good thing, but you get anxiety when it's a bad thing that you're worried about.
Yeah.
But either way, you still have that feeling. And everyone loves the excitement feeling when you know you're going to go out with your friends and we're going to have a badass weekend. We're going to get to do this. We're going to have a fucking cookout. We're going to be chill. It's going to be great. Or, man, my uncle died. I'm going to have to see family I don't want to see anymore. I haven't seen him in forever. They're going to wonder what I'm doing with my life. Then I'm going to have to go to the wake afterwards and everybody's going to be all sad. I don't want to waste my time. And, like, those are the same feelings.
It's the same thing.
It's just the yin and the yang, or the good and the bad in life. Like, we still have to deal with them either way. But honestly, I don't ever feel like I have anxiety. I feel like I over worry and I overanalyze and I overthink every situation. And 9 times out of 10, none of the crap I thought actually happened.
Yeah, you're not lying.
And you're
a lot of it.
You're like, oh man, well, what if this happens, or I can't pay this bill on time, or what if my tire goes out on this road trip, and I forgot I didn't have my spare. It's like, hey man, it's gonna be okay.
Right.
Like we'll get to that. We'll get to that when we get there.
I think that's the key. Like when you said we'll get to there when we get there. Like touching on the point you mentioned, like excitement versus anxiety. Like I'm a technical person. I like sciences and I like things like that. And at the end of the day, it's the body in an excited state.
Yeah.
Right. And so this is why like I'm such a nerd. This is why I love music so much. Like I'm a wordsmith. Like I love words. I love linguistics, etymology, all of that. And so to me, the sad part is in modern era, we've lost the value of real words, and we try being so wordy, so wordy that we like, because that's the terrible part about, terrible and the good part about like the English language is it attempts to define every little thing.
Yeah.
Because if you translate as, are you Spanish?
Dude, I'm half white, half Mexican.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. So like in the Spanish culture, Indian, really every other language, there's not a word for everything. There's so many things that are missing that you use like a random word that when you do translate it, you're like, that's what that means? Like that's not accurate, because we're so used to accuracy in the English language. And so I feel like what ends up happening is where that anxiousness or excited state comes from is we'll be looking for a way to define words, to define whatever the thought is or whatever. And when you're not readily able to like come up with it because you're obviously frazzled, you're kind of like, whoa, hold on, I'm used to being in control. And then it just mathematically, in my opinion, starts leaning forward towards the negative side more often. And then next thing you know, it happens enough that you start becoming that character, right? Like I wrote this quote one time, and I was just in a dark spot, and I was like, I don't know, it came to me, I was on a walk or something. I like walking, and I saw some like flowers. I think it had rained or something, and I just saw some flowers. And I was like, man, and the flowers had kind of closed up, and I was like, just because a flower isn't blooming doesn't mean it's not a flower. Right? And then there's this podcast I listened to, one of my favorite, Tim Ferriss, and he was interviewing Derek Sivers, the guy that made CD Baby, so all the artists out there. And so he had mentioned something, which he was talking about his kid, they're out, and his kid had said something. They're out at some deli, and his kid had always hated olives. And so something like that. But they're out at a deli, and then they're out, and his kid was like, "Hey, Dad, man, I hate olives. I don't want that," because he was like watching his dad order a sandwich or something. He's like, "Hey, no, son, you don't hate olives," because he was teaching them the power of language, right? He's like, "You don't hate olives. It's I don't like olives today." Right? Because the key difference is we say things that are definitive, and that's the whole idea of like the anxious side of spelling, the spelling of a word. Like when you say stuff like you may not realize it, but all of a sudden you become it over the course of X amount of years. People, I swear, like especially people in the creative arts have a little better understanding, or they're far off. Right? And especially type A people, like, your corporate type people and whatever, they're like, that's woo-wah, that's whatever. But everybody's using it.
But it's the same thing like with an affirmation.
That's it. It's the same thing.
If you tell yourself the same thing over and over, it's going to happen, or you're going to define yourself as a person. In some way, you're going to bring that to fruition because you believe in the idea. Like when you say, I hate whatever food. So I have an aunt, and she hated peas. So she never let her kids eat peas.
Jeez.
And her kids said that they hated peas.
Exactly.
They never ate a pea in their life.
Let me guess, it's genetics.
And it's like, but they were just programmed as children. If you tell a child that something's bad, or that's why you tell them like alcohol's bad, smoking is bad. We program our children with these things, so when they grow up, hopefully they realize, but we can't ourselves. We program all this other stuff, but we don't understand that we're trying to program our children to do the right thing. But we can't reprogram our brain. But our kids do it, because I know at some point my kids are going to find a beer or find some liquor, and they're going to try it. It's life.
It is what it is.
But we can't like love. Like when you said that we're so wordy, dude. Like the word love used to mean so much more.
So much.
Because you could tell your friend, I love you, man. Like I love you. Like I got your back. I'm going to be here for you. If you need something, let me know. And that's what that meant, from friend to friend. Like this dude is like my brother. So then when you do it in a relationship with a woman, or whatever your preference is, when you tell someone that I love you, like now people want to do these paragraphs. I love you so much because you're everything to me. No. Let's redefine what love means sometimes. Like that doesn't mean like I got to define and write 4 paragraphs. If I tell you I love you, that shit means something.
Yeah.
And it's not like I feel like a lot of people, they just love you, or hey, love you, bye.
Yeah.
And it's just like
scary.
Going through the motions.
Yeah, it is. And so I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but like I think at the end of the day, the point is just being intentional. Like at the end of the day, it's just about intentionality, and I think it's just about having an opportunity of like, if you're going to dish something out as quickly, like how quickly are you going to dish it right back? Right? Because I think that's the key of what's kind of being a little lost of this whole idea. I think honestly a couple of years ago, when people were claiming this whole awakening was happening, which I do think is a thing, like 2018, 2019, and then COVID hit, I think a lot of people were starting to recognize some of these aspects of self-love. And then I think, in my opinion, it kind of devolved to where it's like you said, like things are getting dished out so quickly, and I'm like, all I'm saying is, would you dish that like as quickly to yourself? And if you can't, then something's wrong. Like then there's not a match going on, right? Like to me, it's like the whole cup half full or half empty type analogy equivalent in a way. So what I mean by that is some people be like, what do you mean? Like, I can define how I want to talk to my friends with this. I'm like, okay, nobody said you couldn't, right? But what I'm saying is if you can as quickly say all that out, oftentimes I've found that people can't do that to themselves.
Yeah.
So I'm like, well, then you tell me, like, you're the one doing it. So like, what's that mean about yourself?
Yeah.
Right. And the reason why I'm saying is I think that the weight isn't equalized then,
Right.
which I think boils down to my knowledge, unless I'm crazy, the way that we communicate is through words. And then the most highly effective way is obviously body language. And both of those are being demeaned. You know what I mean? Both of them are just kind of being lost to some degree.
Yeah.
People are kind of like just saying stuff to say stuff.
Yeah.
And then the body language not there because they're like, yeah, I love you. They're texting. Yeah. But they're not going to look you in the eyes, you know? Right. Or if you look someone in the eyes nowadays, they think there's a problem.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
why are you looking at me?
Yeah. And I'm like, I'm just respecting you. Like, I was trying to pay attention.
I'm
like,
acknowledging you.
Right. But then, you know, you've got our attention span that's so it's a part of it. Like, I think bringing it full circle, like as far as the mental health side of things, I'm not saying that it should go back, right? I'm not saying necessarily it should go back because the whole idea of evolution is you go forward.
Yeah, you move forward.
Yeah, so I think that narrative also has some faults for, like, if we're talking about nonprofits, if we're talking about community leaders, if we're talking about our entertainers, you know, music, film, etc., like people that are in a position to have influence and platforms, more like specifically. And I'm like, I don't think it's a matter of like, oh, I wish we'd go back to the old days. Yeah. I think it's a matter of having more of a thought process on what are we going to do about this now. Right. And I think that's the key, is like trying to better communicate with people and make sure that the message is like, hey, I'm going to meet you where you are.
Yeah.
But because I will, and it's not because of tit for tat, but like, because I will, regardless if you do or don't, I would think that we should have this conversation on this side as well, aka let me speak on my behalf.
Yeah.
Right. And then as that kind of grows, we can get to a place of actual better understanding. And I mean, genuinely, bro, like I feel so bad for these kids right now, man. Like they're dealing like if we're really getting to the nitty gritty, right? Regardless of like sexual orientation, preference, identification, you know, income, skill sets, personal desires, all of these things that are life, right? Mm-hmm. The crazy part is, like, I feel like this generation of children are dealing with more, and I think it's factual, but like more than anything has ever been dealt with.
Right.
They have information, like, you know, the Library of Alexandria?
Nope.
Like way back in the Roman Empire, it was considered to be like the greatest library and had all the world's knowledge, blah, blah, blah. Got burned down by the Roman Empire, etc. And they were saying there's, you know, people that claim that because that got burned down, we basically had to relearn a lot because it got lost. It quite literally got lost. So in a way, you got to think like these kids got the Library of Alexandria, like the world's knowledge in their palm.
Yeah.
You gonna be shocked that they're confused about stuff because they're just constantly able to see everything about anything.
Yeah.
About all these topics I just mentioned. That could be how to make money in the world. That could be how to find a partner. That could be just what do I feel like doing today? What am I eating?
And the crazy thing is, like, the invention of podcasting, the invention of blogs, social media. You can basically say whatever you want on the internet, and to some extent, it becomes some form of knowledge to someone.
Yeah.
You say something wrong, it doesn't matter.
There's no fact checking.
If 1,000 people read it, at least 100 of them are going to take it to heart as law, as facts.
Exactly.
And they'll go into debates and they'll argue with people.
They'll talk to real people in their real life about it.
Like there was a story that Ice Spice was dating Charles Oliveira from the UFC. And
I saw that.
The first thing I did was put it on my story. I was like, somebody fact check this for me, please.
Yeah.
And nobody, like, a bunch of people liked it, but nobody, I was like, is this for real though? Like, is Charles Oliveira actually dating her? Well, he's not. It was just something on the internet.
I guarantee you, whoever watched that, there's at least 5 or 6 people that was like,
oh,
bro, did you see this?
Yeah, she was dating Charles Oliveira. That wasn't real. That's why I said if somebody would fact check it. But it just comes down to that's the part that's scary. So anything that anyone's ever wrote, because if you want a topic, you can Google it, and if it fits a phrase in somebody's blog that was written in the last 2 years and 10 years ago, and a kid that's 12 or 13 reads it, oh, then that's just the way it is. And he just takes that in his head as law moving forward.
That's it.
Like if I want to find the right partner, then I need to have a 6-pack of abs. I need to have great hair, perfect teeth. I need to make $200,000 a year, and I need to be a drug dealer, basically. And if that's what an article said, he just takes it as
This is what I got to do
this
to
is
get to
what
where I
I'm
want to
doing.
go.
That I want to find a good wife, and these one guys, the easiest way to make money is dealing drugs. That's what it said. And they can take things out of context because the internet has no fact checkers.
Yeah.
And you can't cancel a vlog because the vlog is just there.
Yeah.
Someone uploads their opinion on something, and it's like, oh, I do a newsletter. It's like, no, you don't. You just talk about what you believe.
Yeah.
And now everyone has to listen to it because one person thought you were the guy that made the news.
Oh yeah. It's
All
crazy.
right, man, we've gone in.
It's
we
crazy.
We went
it's
real
crazy.
heavy into that.
Yeah, it's crazy.
But let's talk about. Make sure I'm saying this. Holistic health.
Yeah. Holistic.
All right. So, what's the focus with that and the purpose?
Yeah. So, holistic is just about really teaching people how to honestly like live a whole life, but more perspective from like the physical side. So like your physical body, how to actually live life and take care of your body. You know, so like honestly, whenever I talk about my companies, to me they're the three pillars of life, which is the mind, that's nerve, so mental health, the body, holistic, and then your spirit, age, which is we'll get to it, but is our record label and media company. And so if you really think about it, like all the entertainment industry is just a bunch of, it's spirit, it's just people's perspective. So with holistic, the whole idea for me stemmed from the idea of, honestly, people just don't know how to take care of themselves.
Yeah.
I mean, this is just the honest truth. And so it kind of boiled around some of the basics is what we call them, but like we're working on a program, it'll probably come out next year. But we're working on a holistic basics program. The idea is like the very basic level staples of what it takes to be a well-rounded person. So that might be water consumption, that might be sleep, that might be what you're eating. Like the basic things, I could almost guarantee that 80% of the people I could walk across just don't have it figured out.
Oh no.
They just don't. And I'm not gonna say it's easy per se, but like the crazy part is it generally is when you stop complicating it.
Yeah.
It really is. It's not that crazy. And so holistic has helped me honestly change my life from a physical standpoint, man. Like the entertainment industry is not for everybody, obviously, and it's tough, man, because it really thrives on a nightlife type environment.
Yeah. Dude, honestly, like
it's
someone asked me just today, like, how do you find guests for your podcast?
Yeah.
And I was like, I go to a lot of functions. I go to shows. I go have coffee with other podcasters occasionally, and we have conversations, Instagram, social media, and then kind of just whoever's open and willing, then we chat it up a little bit, and we'll see if like, okay, good vibe, bad vibe, maybe we don't do something, maybe we do something. But the nightlife, if you're in the music industry, you're gonna have to spend a couple of nights out.
More than a couple. It's going to turn into your schedule practically.
In a week, you're going to be out at least 2 nights a week.
Yeah.
You're going to be out probably Friday, Saturday, maybe Sunday. And the rest of the week, I mean, most artists who don't have a major signing, you're working a normal job.
Yeah.
And so you're turning around. Because I was doing that. I was going out. Yeah. I was out till 2:00 in the morning, and then I'd
That's only when the bars close. What you mean?
Yeah.
You still got to go afterwards.
No, not me. I was like, all right, guys, the bar closed. It's time to go.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's just it's a life. It's not, and I mean, there's, I mean, once you're successful and like anything you put out is gonna end up on the radio, like Drake status, then yeah, you can stay at the house.
Yeah.
You don't got to go.
I mean, he popping out just to do some promo or something.
Yeah. I mean, you show up, he'll go to a Raptors game, and then he might 15 minutes in a club, and then he's back at the house.
Right.
Because he don't need to be out.
Yeah.
But, I mean, if you're trying to make it, you're trying to meet people, you're trying to promote your music, you're trying to promote anything that you're doing, you basically have to have some kind of nightlife. And, I mean, that's one of the things, like, so I'm like 106 days sober now. No alcohol.
Congrats, bro.
And
that's dope.
One of the things that I realized was I have an addiction problem.
Yeah.
Like,
same.
I wasn't addicted to alcohol. I was abusing alcohol, but I grabbed something and I abuse it. So like the only thing I'm abusing right now is vaping, nicotine, and
yeah, that stuff is tough.
I've been on that for probably like 8 years now. I've been off of cigarettes, and then I jumped in. I did like 21 days, no energy drinks, no Cokes, no nothing, just water, coffee, tea, and that was good. And then, but I was 306 pounds when I got my DWI, and today I'm 279.
Damn.
So
That's dope, bro.
like,
Congrats.
I was only really trying. I appreciate it, but I was only really trying for like 2 months, and
You got results like that,
meal prepping now, and I was like, man, if I clean up my diet, I can lose weight this fast.
bro.
And I was like, because my goal was like, I want to try to be 270 by my birthday, which is the end of July, July
Okay.
23rd. That's
Yeah,
like 3 weeks out, and I'm like, I can totally hit that goal as long as I keep eating right, and I really cut everything out besides like liquid death, water, and I might have one energy drink every other day or something now.
yeah.
But man, I was killing 5 or 6 energy drinks like it was nothing.
Yeah, you're gonna make me throw up thinking about it. Like, I can't do energy drinks. I've never really like. See, like, I think, just like the company name with Holisic, the whole idea is like, in a modern world, my thought isn't also to tell people like, hey, eat chicken breast with nothing on it, with rice and drink water. Like, it's just not practical.
Yeah.
But the goal is, how close can you get to like a whole product?
Yeah.
Right? Like, how close can you get to drinking water? How close can you get to eating clean? How close can you get to like, having a snack or a sweet or a treat? Whatever it is, like, because that's the real goal. Because at the end of the day, the main reason why I think people just don't realize what's really going on, which is the scary part, is this also boils back down to mental health. It's like people blame themselves. But it's like, bro, you have multi-billion, trillion-dollar market cap companies that are straight up their waking goal when they wake up in the morning, and this isn't the CEO, this is every person in that company, whether they are conscious of it or not, their goal is to get you to purchase stuff.
Yeah.
Things. So you tell me, how are you going to battle that?
Yeah.
Stop beating yourself up. I know that's easier to say, but like, I want to tell people, I'm like, for real, like, take a step back and realize it's not your fault.
Yeah.
Like, and I genuinely mean that. Like, it was the hardest realization for me. I was always beating myself up, and I'm like, man, something's wrong with me. Like, why can't I just do this? And I was raised as an athlete and scholar, etc. And I would go do extracurricular activities, whatever. So like, I already had my ego, I can admit, of like, oh, I'm already a kind of a well-rounded person. So how am I not able to do this?
Yeah.
Right. And it's, like, you gonna fight a trillionaire?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. Well, because I mean, with everything that we consume, everything we take in, like the easiest things to sell are stuff to make you look cool, clothing,
easy,
merchandise, food, and then honestly, alcoholic beverages or just regular beverages.
Just beverages.
Yeah, that's where your money goes. Like they said, at one point, Quick Trip was like in the top 10 of fast food restaurants.
Wow.
And it's Quick Trip.
They're not even a restaurant.
They don't make money off the gas.
Right.
Gas stations don't make money off the gas.
They make off the convenience store.
Off the stuff inside. So the beer runs, all those snacks you stop on, like all that stuff, like that's where they make their money. So Quick Trip expanded all the food that they made. Yeah. And then it's like, oh, we're a fast food restaurant now, basically.
Yeah. I mean, they got like a parlor back there. Yeah, ice cream,
they make
and
pizza. They make ice cream. They make tacos. They make. I think they have. I think they have sandwiches, but they're not hamburgers. But they have. Basically, there's like
kitchen.
There's
got a kitchen in a gas station.
10 different things that you could get and get a full meal, but you're still gonna grab a Coke, a candy bar, an energy drink, and maybe some peanuts or a cookie on the way out.
Yeah.
And $27.
This is all I grabbed.
It's hard, dude.
It's
like,
tough.
I try to stay out of it because, like, even today I went in. I was like, I got me a Coke Zero. I was like, I'm gonna get a Coke Zero because I want something a little bit sweet and carbonated. And I was like, but I still had to get me a bag of Cheetos. And I was like, but then, like you were saying, the hardest part, like I started meal prepping, and like I don't like chicken breast. It has no flavor. I always eat chicken thigh because there's more fat on it.
Yeah.
And it's easy. It's cheaper, and it has more flavor. I can season it, throw it on the grill, and then I can fill up 15 plates. I'll throw maybe a cup of rice, maybe not that much, and then I did broccoli and like a coleslaw like style side.
Yeah.
That turned out terrible. I threw it all away because it didn't hold right with the rest of the meal. So I threw all those away and condensed a couple of meals. But it was like, it's not hard. If I know, cause one of my things was I used to eat for pleasure. Like, I want to
it's an addiction of its own.
I want to enjoy 12 tacos, or I want to enjoy this pizza. It's so good. But when you take out the pleasure aspect and you just think about food is fuel.
Mm-hmm.
Like, my body needs this to sustain itself through the day. So what I started doing is I would start eating before I was hungry.
Yeah.
Like, okay, it's about 10:30. I'm gonna eat my meal right now because there's carbohydrates in it, there's proteins in it. When my body starts getting hungry, I'm not gonna be craving Jack in the Box or McDonald's or
You said it.
something random. My body's already gonna have something in it to start using as fuel throughout the day. And dude, that's worked wonders. Like, I mean, I honestly like 10 pounds almost in a week.
Yeah.
And it's just like, oh, cool. Because even with the fluctuation, I was like, all right, where am I at on the fluctuation? I'm like, oh no, I'm on the bottom, and I'm where I need to be on the fluctuation too.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, it's crazy, bro. Like, I'll tell people, I'm like, not to make them feel any type of way, but I'm like, bro, you're a walking pile of shit. I'm like, look, I'm being honest with you. Like, I think I always joke about this with some of the homies, but like sometimes I'll get irritated by people, as we all do, and I might be out, like, I don't know, at a bar or the club or an event or something like that. Like, those people you come across, and whether it's a guy or girl, that just, they think they all that, right? Like, they're just like, they're the hottest thing in the world. And I'm not talking about appearance, they think they're it,
Yeah.
And I'm like, bro, like, don't ever forget, like, you just this random animal that puts clothes on, bro. Like, you're just a creature, bro. Like, come on, man. Like, I get that we're intelligent beings. So then we have this idea, and that's the whole point, like, idea of ourself, right? But I'm like, on average, to give you some random health facts, like, our ancestors, bro, used to take a shit like 2 to 3 times a day. It would be 3 or 4 if you're healthy, and like really healthy. And I'm like, bro, I know people that are like, if you ask that uncomfortable question, they'll be like, I don't know, man. Like, it might have been, I'm like, what? So you don't know when? So I'm like, it might have been a day or two. I'm like, bro,
that's unhealthy.
it's terrible. Like, it's terrible for you. So I'm like, quite literally, I joke with people about that. I'm like, yo, you're just a walking pile of shit. And I'm like, quite literally, like, girl, you got your nails done, or my boy, you got that fresh fade or whatever. But I'm like, bro, if I could see through you right now, like, quite literally, you're walking around with that in you.
Yeah.
And all of that can only do so much for, like, your identity or your ego, really, at the end of the day. But I'm like, the thing that's really gonna make you feel like you actually that shit, or you're on fire in a good way, and you're like, you are what you want to be, it's those simple things, and you're doing it right now, right? And I think the food is fuel is like such a huge aspect, but I think there's a progression. As I've watched and studied and even consulted with people over the years, like on their health journey, I've kind of watched it go in that linear pattern where it's like you're eating junky, then people tend to go through the food is fuel phase. And then as you get to that next stage, you'll find a way to realize, like, when you really get good with it, like, I've been cooking since I was 5 years old. And so, like, when you get good with the idea of food, you'll learn how to use very minimal and just make fire meals.
Oh, yeah.
Like fire meals.
No, I've been cooking for a long time.
I love it.
And like, grilling it for me, it's like, it's quick, it's easy. I can season the meat the way I want it. And then I made spicy broccoli. I made broccoli, and I covered, it was when you're eating it, it's like, oh, this is hot. Like, this is hotter than I thought it was going to be, but it's good. And then, but the thing is, like a lot of people are like, oh, it's got to be strict. You got to be so strict. And you don't.
No, it's not that serious.
It's really your portion size. And yeah, man, you want an ice cream bar? Get you an ice cream bar, bro. If you need a candy bar a couple times a week, it's not going to kill you.
No.
And like,
unless you're training to be an athlete or something, like,
yeah.
I'm like, yo.
Well, I mean, then it depends on how much you're training. Because like, I was doing basically a 5K 3 nights a week. I would just walk.
Yeah.
And like, I was like, one night I did 5.5 miles, and I was like, that's like 1,000 calories. That didn't even take that long. And I would just listen to music, process my thoughts and everything. And it was like, no, that was kind of relaxing. It felt good. And so I kept doing them, and I would just like, well, that one kind of took a while to do on a weeknight. So I would try to hit the 5K. And then like when I started eating different, I was like, okay, I want to see what's helping more. It's a science experiment.
That's all it is. And I think that's where people forget. And speaking of 5K, we hit a 5K every month at Holisic. Tomorrow is actually the one that we're doing. It's virtual. You get to do it from wherever, anywhere. But the key is, like you said, is like, it's just an experiment. I think too often times people want to find, as they should, like, they want to find like something that works.
Yeah.
Or they just want to find the thing. I'm like, that's cool and all, but like, information overload is a thing.
Yeah.
I struggle with it because it's just so much stuff out there.
Yeah.
So it's like, look something up, that's fine, do what you got to do, but once you find something,
do it.
Just try it.
Yeah.
Just give it a shot and get pissed off, because if you're not getting pissed off in the process, you're not even trying it long enough, because you're gonna be like, oh, this isn't working, or that. Good, that means you got far along enough to realize something.
Yeah.
Versus you try something for a week and then you're like, I'm gonna try this, I'm
Yeah.
gonna try this, I'm gonna try that.
Because that's part of the reason with the walking and then the eating. Because I'm like, I haven't really stacked them, and I'm like, okay, well if I stack them, so my caloric deficit's going to be even better than it already was.
Right.
And then I was like, okay, but and then I did hot yoga before I did the food change too. And I'm terrible at yoga, bro. I'm
It's
a
hard.
big dude and I am not flexible, but I want to keep doing that because like challenging yourself and making yourself feel uncomfortable, it always gets you further. If you're just comfortable on the couch and you don't do anything, then you'll always be comfortable on the couch and you won't change anything.
I beg to differ. You're not going to be, because eventually those joints are going to start catching up, and then you're like, bro, I'm not even comfortable doing this no more.
Yeah.
And that's guaranteed.
I need a bigger couch.
Yeah, and that's guaranteed. So I think the one take I would say is like, side note on the yoga thing, like a lot of people think it's flexibility, but it really is strength. And like we have such a misconception of what strength means in the body. Like the strongest muscles are the longest muscles. Is it like that's a saying they say in like the lifting world, and it's like people don't realize that like gymnasts and whatnot and all that, like flexibility, it's just biomechanics. It's that simple. The way a muscle moves, the only way it can move in a deeper range of motion is because it's strong.
Yeah.
And what that means is the brain is basically like whenever you might move in a certain way, and then you're like, ooh, I can't move anymore because you feel that pain.
Yeah.
That's just the brain actually saying, hey, like that's as far as I'm willing to take it because of your personal life choices. Right?
Your body talks.
That's it. Your body's talking to you and saying
Yeah.
that's as far as I'm willing to take it because I run the show.
Yeah.
Right? Because a lot of people don't realize this. If you ever seen a person that goes under, like anesthesia, have you ever seen someone?
Mm-mm.
Actually, you can like literally put their leg behind their head. So I could put you under anesthesia right now, and I could put your leg behind your head. So you tell me, like, how can I do that if your body's not capable of doing that when you're conscious?
Yeah.
So that means you're actually able to do it.
Yeah.
It's actually your brain talking to your nervous system and your muscles
Like,
and
hey,
saying,
he don't
hey,
do that.
this is,
Yeah.
we're tightening up. If we go any further, we have a probability to get injured.
Yeah.
And I'm just not going to take a chance on that.
Yeah.
Because, this motherfucker don't blah, blah, blah. Or he don't drink the water I told him to. Or he don't eat the food I was telling him at what time or whatever. So it's all just a limitation. So as you strengthen, it's called neuromuscular connectivity. Neuro, brain, muscular, muscles.
Yeah.
So actually what you're supposed to do is you're actually trying to get like any workout in the world. If you're trying to do something like, I don't know, like a bench press or like a squat, you want to go into whatever the deepest position is for that thing, and you want to tighten everything and then loosen. Mm-hmm. So like you might want to like get into a squat position and literally like just tighten your legs and tighten everything like that, and then relax and drop as far as you're capable. And you keep doing that because what that actually is doing is reprogramming the brain to say, oh, we can go a little deeper.
Yeah.
But it's trusting that now.
Yeah.
And so it's crazy, bro. Like when I first found that out, I didn't know that was a thing. I had one of my previous doctors that I used to like do different stuff for like my training with, and she told me about that. And then I had I had some minor surgery one time, and then that doctor showed me, like I was asking her one time, and before I was about to go under, it was like a tooth surgery or something like that. And there was literally, I thought it was the funniest thing. There was literally a lady that was just out on a table. And she's like, oh yeah, it's true, watch this. And she literally, this patient is just laying there out. She grabs her leg and puts it, and I was like, are you kidding me? And she's like, yeah, she's like blah, blah, blah years old. She's a frail woman. She can't really, and I was like, so this is real? Like, and that just shifted my mind forever.
Yeah.
So I'll say like, look into it. It's crazy. Yeah. It's mind boggling.
All right, man. So let's get into the music. And it's AGE, right?
Mm-hmm.
So how's that going?
AGE is dope. Yeah, so AGE, it stands for Avant-Garde Emporium. So it's an acronym. I like avant-garde stuff, which avant-garde art or whatever is just like, essentially the general thesis is like, oh, I would like to think ahead of its time, or just kind of ethereal or new age, or, experimental really. And Emporium is just a word for a large store. So like the whole goal is to be the large store of cool stuff.
Yeah.
Creatively. And for me, like we're currently focused on like my music and the distribution. We've got some artists in the pipeline. Like once those things come to like fruition and get a little more tightened up, I'll be like, obviously we'll be, talking about more of those things, but we've got some artists that we're working with. But right now the primary focus is like me getting these, singles out, and then we have like a project that we're working on that I should probably get out by the end of the year.
Okay. Dude, so where's your music right now available?
So we have that one record, which is a video. So
Right.
we've like I don't have any shame in sharing some of the strategy, but historically the industry tends to drop a single and then a video afterwards, right?
Hmm.
So we're testing something out. We're actually dropping videos first, and then we're dropping the actual songs.
Okay.
We're just testing the theory of kind of building demand because this current world is just watching videos,
Yeah.
right? They're like watching everything versus like to get someone to commit to a record, like don't get me wrong, I could like run it by a bunch of friends or run it by some of my network or whatever, and they'll listen to it one time. But for them to download that and put it in a playlist, which is probably with the playlist another 100 songs they have, when is it going to get replayed?
Right.
Right? So at the end of the day, like our theory is if we show the visual and talk about the messaging and like build more of a relationship faster in theory and deeper with our audience, then like when the records drop, they'll actually be like, hey, I know exactly what this means. I know what it's about. I
Right.
have a literal visual
I can
representation.
see the song.
And
Yeah.
then they have a desire to maybe actually play it back. Because, you know, I think the DFW market is great with talent, but very poor with business execution. And I'm in that same category right now because I'm learning. I'm
Yeah.
learning. There's a lot to learn in this industry. Like, shout out to Smooth Vega, one of the greatest executives I think that I know of, and especially in DFW. I mean, he's taken amazing artists like Louis the Singer, XP Valentine, worked with people like Angel Seen Throne, like, and he's really good at what he does. And I think like he has a great brain for understanding the industry. And I think it's that like one of those aspects is how do you really build an actual fan base?
Right.
Because I think a lot of artists are just going really purely off of optics and not really creating like a relationship. Like optics is a part of it, but if you're just releasing fire content, like what's that really saying?
Well, the thing is, you release the content, but if no one sees it, then it's hard because like subscribers on Instagram, subscribers on YouTube, though the YouTube translates to money based off of the views,
Right.
but you have to be at the certain subscriber count before you're
Monetize.
allowed into that money.
Yeah.
And so I mean, there's guys that you can put out 10 videos in a month, but
Yeah.
if no one's watching them and you're not monetized, then you spent. I mean, a music video, depending upon who shoots it, you can find someone to shoot one for 300, or you can pay 1,500 or
You
more.
pay 5 racks.
Yeah,
15,000.
so that's what I'm saying. So it just depending upon what you're putting out, if you don't have the fan base that's gonna go out and support it or show up at a show and then share your music, and it's a I don't know what to tell. I mean, but
It's a
like,
tough game.
but you're doing something completely different, releasing a music video first, and then because
Where's
I
the
was like,
song?
I know, because I was like, I've heard this song before, I've seen the video, and I was like, but I don't think I've ever looked on Apple Music because I was making the intro to this, and I was like, I'll just put a song, I'll tag it in the video, and I was like, wait, what? So I mean, it created some demand because I was like, bro, where do I find it? That's why I asked you. I was like, where do I
Right.
find this at? But I mean, it's a different strategy, and I want to know how it works, but
Yeah.
how it works out. Because I mean, so you're gonna do that with what? How many singles, or we're like,
We got some ideas.
what you're trying there? I'm just curious.
Yeah, no, we got some ideas. But yeah, I got a couple of other singles. Like, I would say from a video production standpoint, we've been, I guess I would say tweaking with a couple of different ideas from production standpoint. Like, because my goal is like my brain, like I come from more of like a corporate background, right? Like I'm like a more of a startup founder. So like I'm always thinking about like bootstrapping, like how little can we really put into something and get like huge value out of it,
Oh yeah.
right? And so that could be through collaborative efforts, that could be through like just literally whatever's laying around because that's when you're the most creative, right? So like we're tweaking with a couple of ideas of like with these videos, how can we do them with skeleton crews, basically like 2 or 3 people maximum.
Yeah.
If not, like I'm actually, I'll say this one, but like I'm actually working on like a project right now where I'm going to shoot the music video on my own.
Yeah.
Entirely. And so we're working on a couple of random ideas of like obviously some tripod shots and then like different like weird rigs, like building out some random rigs that it might be like on me or like, something that,
Yeah.
and whatnot. And the real goal is like my narrative is that story, is that like, how do you make something happen with so little? right? And so like that is the story I'm telling through my music.
Yeah.
And then the music itself is obviously like some of its own messaging, right? Like Luke's message was knowledge isn't money. I'm sorry, not knowledge, but like the loot isn't money, it's knowledge. Right. And so on and so forth. So like for me, I might be that corny woke rapper or whatever it is to some people or whatever you want to call it. But like to me, like I like slipping in those messages and being like, but is it still something somebody wants to listen to, right?
Exactly.
And so I'm like, that's what my narrative is. Like I feel like most people is respectfully, nothing against it, like they're telling their story like as if someone cares.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like they're telling their specific story as if someone cares versus like, yes, tell your story, but I think it's gone beyond that. I think it's more of like, why do those certain hit bars resonate? Because it might be enough of an angle of that person's personal perspective, but it's more of the fact that it's relatable. Right? And so it's like, my narrative is, it sucks trying to make it in this industry.
Yeah.
And so I'm kind of trying to tell that, whether that's through the video production, whether that's through whatever it is. And so I feel like that's the message, right?
Right.
And I feel like more people could relate to that versus me saying, hey, this very specific mental health issue I dealt with is my whole branding, right? Or this very specific reason that I'm an Indian artist that wants to make rap and da-da-da. I'm like, I can find enough people that like, you know, maybe fit the bill, but they're going to be like, but I'm that. So I'm not going to buy into this, right?
Right.
And then another person be like, okay, that's cool, good for you, bro, but like, I'm not looking for the Indian rapper that's trying to blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, what does that have to do with me?
As the viewer, right? It's either another artist or the viewer. So
yeah. No, for sure. All right. I mean, we've gone through a lot of the questions. Oh, the move, man. So you're in California now?
Yeah. So I'm in LA right now. I actually just got in. What was that, yesterday? Yeah, I got in yesterday. So I was in New York. It was like an extended business trip. There for almost like 3 weeks. But LA's nice. It's cool. Yeah. I mean, what do you want to know about LA?
like, have you been there before?
Only once.
So like,
or twice, I guess.
Everyday living, culture shock, or kind of just like,
That's a good question. I guess it just depends on, I don't know, like, you know, who you are as a person. But for me, like the first thing when people were asking me when I first moved there, you know, people are like, oh, like, hey, like, what do you think? And, like it out here? Or, you know, the basic question everybody asks. And I was like, look, let me just tell you one thing. And it may not be an answer direct, but I'm like, all I can tell you is I'm proud to say I was raised in the South. I'm like, this may not be the direct answer you were looking for, but I think I answered your question.
Yeah,
like,
100%.
It is like whenever they had asked me. So yeah.
Well, I mean, because I've talked with people that have moved to Texas from Indiana, from Seattle, from like Virginia, West Virginia, like kind of all over. And everyone thinks, every other city in the United States thinks that in Texas we all have horses. Like we're just going down to the pasture on our horse, and like we all make money somehow doing that down here, riding around on a horse with a cowboy hat. Because I had a buddy when I was probably in 6th grade. I had a buddy. He was like, yeah, my cousins are in town. I was like, that's cool, man. He's like, they're going to be at the house this weekend. I was like, oh, so like we had like a little sleepover thing for a birthday party. So we're there, and they're like, man, this place is so weird. And we were like, why? It's just like back in Kentucky, kind of like there's nothing that's any different here. We thought there would be like horses everywhere, but y'all got like cars and highways, and it's like, huh?
You think we're in a
like,
third
world
country?
You really thought that? Like, that we were just all everybody has a cowboy hat and a pair of boots. Like, it
was funny, man. Like, I was on the plane, and I was sitting next to this lady. She had a little baby. Baby ends up throwing up, and I was like, wow. Like, I hadn't gotten an aisle seat in a minute, so I was like, oh, nice. I can stretch out my legs. This is a blessing. And then, like, right when I pull up, there's a baby just wailing, and I was like, okay, God, all right. Like, so you give me one, then you take one. That's fine. I think that's fair. Like, we'll keep it even.
It's a trade-off.
Yeah, we'll keep it even, like, 50-50. I sit down, baby throws up a little while later, and then, the attendant asked me, like, hey, do you want to go sit in, like, one of the, what is it, like, the aisles where the doors, the escape doors are? So it's like you have to be briefed on, like, if emergency happens, I was like, yeah, I'll go there, thanks. And so I went back there, I'm chilling. Dude I'm sitting next to, as we start landing, he's like, oh wow, like, and he's like seeing all like we're still further, and so he's seen all the little like pockets of the farms and all the plots of land. And he's like, oh wow, so it's like, it's very country out here. And I was like, so that's your take all of a sudden? I'm like, we're not even to the city yet, bro. I'm like just eavesdropping. And then as we get, he's like, oh, it's like getting more metropolitan. And I'm like, what did you think, bro? Like, that was the ninth largest city in America, dog. And like Fort Worth's like 13th. We were like crawling to be 12th. Yeah. I'm like, that's two of the largest cities in America right here in the same metro.
Yeah.
30 minutes apart. I'm like, what? And then he's like, oh, okay, so like, oh wow, it's pretty big. I'm like, dog, like,
yes.
oh wow. It's funny, but yeah, back on LA, man, like it's just I think the cool part is like when I answered that, I genuinely meant it, because I do think that Southern values are really great. I am genuinely proud. Like, I was born in Philadelphia, so like I come from the East Coast. I was raised here, and now having an opportunity to live in LA, it just seems like people's like values are out of whack, bro. Like I think, or they're lackluster in general. And the way I would say it is like if there was like a spectrum of like identities, it's just wider in LA.
Yeah.
It's very wide. And so what I mean by that is like, let's say this is like spirituality, and this is wokeism, or whatever, or this is like, a corporate-ish brain, whatever you want to call it. Like on either side of the spectrum, it's just a wide spectrum. There are people that really are like, I'm this. I would say like Texas is like this, LA is like that. As far as the spectrum goes. I'm not saying that means, neither here nor there is like better or worse. It's a wider range.
Yeah.
Nature's dope. I'm a nature guy, so like I live by the beach. I'm in Hermosa Beach, and that's awesome. Like just getting to wake up in a 5-minute walk, I'm at like a corner of the continent. Yeah. I'm like, that's kind of crazy. Some of the main reasons going out there was obviously like growing everything. So the music stuff's been great, connecting with a lot of amazing producers. Like, these people are like, shit, got Grammys nominated, things like that. And it's just really nice talking to people that come from a business background in that industry specifically. Yeah. Because in DFW, bro, like talent is there. That's not even to be argued with. Yeah. The difficult part is the business acumen, like I mentioned earlier. So it's like you might want to work with someone and pitch them on how to go forward with something, and it's just skepticism the whole time. It's like, it's just constant, like, what are you up to? And I'm like, making the project that I'm discussing with you right now. What you mean? Yeah. Like, what do you mean? And what am I up to? Like, you trying to do this or not? Like, you know what I mean? Like, this is how much I can pay you. This is how much I can break you off. This is how, like, these are the options. And all of a sudden, like, you present options and you seem like the ops. Yeah. It's all of a sudden like, oh, what you up to? And I'm like, I'm up to the stuff that it says on these papers. Like, like
we're trying to do
something. I gave you options. Like, what you want to do? Like, you can say no, but like, how are you, And then all of a sudden you find that very talented people are working with one another that may not have that acumen. And then, I've been noticing this lately in this market, like a lot more people are getting signed or getting managers and this and that. I don't know what the deals look like or what's going on and whatnot. I wish the best, but like my concern is always, I just hope artists don't get kind of like duped, where it's like, let's do this with your identity, and they're pouring their income, because like you said, like none of these people are, most of us are working day jobs and whatnot, even if you don't advertise it, like, and you're pouring your hard-earned money into that. So I'm like, I just hope it's what's best. And with age, like that's what I really want to do with certain artists I really believe in that are here, and so LA's dope. And then as far as like Holisic goes with health stuff, you don't have to sell health to people in LA. Like every corner, you don't. Like every corner you go, there's like a little acai bowl spot. There's like a vegan restaurant. There's this, there's that. So like a big reason was, trying to expand our marketplace there, working with different like influencers, athletes, and like learning from that market, because it's a great market. And if you can make it in a market like that, our plan next year is to export to different, like large markets, Miami specifically, like cities in Florida and things like that. And then obviously with NRVE, the whole idea is like I'm over there studying the homelessness over there. Yeah. Because it's the worst in America. Yeah. So like I'm kind of trying to learn from that market, take some insights so we can export that and bring some solutions here for DFW. Yeah. So as far as like each reason why I went out there. Yeah. It's nice.
So basically everything that you're doing, you took it out there with you.
Has to be.
And you're basically doing the same case study there that you're doing here.
Exactly. Like the goal is like I feel like for any business, like if you're an artist, you're the business. Mm-hmm. Right? That's a given. Like if you're the artist, you are a business. Like you're not some kind of a you're not the product, you're the business. And I
Right.
think that's where people get duped. And if it's a business, it's a business. But like, I think the goal is to duplicate yourself,
Yeah.
right? Like with any business model, the goal is to duplicate yourself. Because like if you're passionate enough and driven enough that you're the one who started it all, obviously the goal is you're trying to find more people like that, right?
Right.
And so like I was going to move, later possibly, and or even earlier, but when I had like built out the team for some of these different projects and companies, I felt like it was a good timing. So I was like, hey, I'm ready to leave because I have people holding it down here.
Yeah.
So it's like it's time for me to go like continue learning and growing because it's a different animal out there, bro. Like I can
for
tell you
sure.
candidly, like any person I'm running into, I'll run into an artist, right? These people are producing than any producer I know. I'm telling you, bro, it's just mind-boggling. Like they're making crazy mixes, like engineers, like all of these things. They're just so talented compared to like the highest level of talent here. And these are like low-tier people out there,
Yeah.
right? Like these people they're the artist, but they have production skills. They're just doing it all, man.
Yeah.
And they're just really well-rounded because they understand the business well as well. And so they're, bartering for deals with things like with companies like Spotify, or they're working with different local, production houses, things like that and all that. So like my real genuine desire is to bring a lot of that knowledge back here.
Yeah.
Is like bring that knowledge back here because at the end of the day, like, like I said, I'm proud of like, being raised in an environment like this. I have amazing talented artist friends, like there's people like Avery Burke or North or Alex Irish or
Yeah.
like Nino So Supreme. Like, there's just so many dope artists out here, and all those people I mentioned are doing a phenomenal job, right? And so I'm like, I think the goal is what I've noticed from traveling to New York, Atlanta, Chicago, Miami, and now LA, or living there at least, but like traveling to these major markets has taught me a lot that like those markets do so well because they collaborate.
Yeah.
They just do so well because they move, I wouldn't say as a unit per se, but they really know how to like make deals with one another.
Yeah.
That is obviously in best interest of themselves, as it should be,
Yeah.
but that there's still value on the other side.
Yeah.
And so they just do it because they know that like at the end of the day, I'm trying to eat, but for me to eat faster,
Yeah.
why wouldn't I put another chef in the kitchen?
Right.
Because there's more food now.
Yeah.
But for some reason there's like this weird nature here in the South specifically of like we're very willing to scrape off of someone's plate and walk in the other direction.
Yeah, I never heard it put that way before.
It's a very ironic thing. And so I don't know.
The collab aspect, and it's not just here locally. It's like let's argue with each other and let's fight with each other, like and get into it with each other and try to one up each other rather than just coming up together.
I think it's a cultural thing. Like it's like every culture has its pros and cons. As I mentioned, maybe the con for like something on the West Coast, like they're so ethereal in a way that sometimes it could be spread thin, right? I think for us, what makes the pro is we're hard workers.
Yeah.
We're very hard workers. But the con is because we're hard workers and we've typically had to do it on our own, I think that's where it like leaks in.
Yeah.
Where it's kind of like, hey, like I know what I'm going to output, but I don't know that you will.
Right.
And so then it kind of makes people squeamish to want to take that gamble, right? And obviously that ends up happening to where, as you hear from a lot of artists, I'm sure, like, man, I got done wrong in this thing, or I tried working with this producer, or I worked with this artist and this person, and it happens. But I think what LA is teaching me is they just are more willing to do more. So it happens more rapidly. So then the mind gets more used to the fact like, oh, this is the industry. Because like people don't realize, your favorite artist, it could be Travis Scott, it could be, whoever, it could be Kanye, it could be Don Toliver, whatever it is. We don't realize that like by the time a project comes out, a 20-song project is because they like cooked up 500 records.
Yeah.
Or that music video that came out is because they like had 4 of them go to trash.
Yeah.
And like we're just not used to that, I feel like, because we don't have like a good hub here as far as like the industry goes.
Yeah.
The closest thing we have to a hub as far as the entertainment industry is Houston. And that's just because of like, that era when we had Screws and all of that stuff. Like it was a good era that kind of built stuff out. And then seemingly I feel like the executives kind of just dispersed.
Yeah. Yeah, man, that was a mouthful there.
It's a lot.
We don't have the hub. We don't have the same. We can't compete with LA.
Not yet.
Not yet. But there's a lot of talent here. There's a lot of guys that are working towards it. There's a lot of guys that are learning different aspects of the business.
Exactly.
And I mean, it's just a matter of time.
Yeah, I think that's the moral of the story. Like, I'm just super excited for that. Like, there's like, think about it, man. There's like more festivals and things like that in the last 5 years that I thought I would have never seen almost
Yeah,
in like a decade or so in Fort Worth.
yeah,
Like maybe Dallas, sure. But I'm like,
yeah,
wow, this is crazy. Like, this is amazing. And we had like Ray Shrimmer to here when Fortress Festival was around.
yeah,
2018, 2019, like. Stuff like that. And like I said, Smooth Vega, I think, is single-handedly kind of carrying the city right now. Like,
yeah,
it's crazy. Like, I mean, he's not only for his own artists, but like the shows he throws and the people he's just kind of slowly. I went to the 36 Mafia show. Like, he's slowly, bringing these types of people in where it's like it's becoming a thing on people's radar of like, oh, I
yeah,
could stop by here and make some bread.
yeah,
And if we can show that our city has the ability to like put some money in those people's pockets,
yeah,
that's when that industry starts bubbling. And
yeah,
there's amazing executives that are starting to come from like these big companies like Def Jam and whatnot that are like, hey, DFW is a market, or hey, Houston, is a market. San Antonio, there's a lot of talent coming out of there.
yeah.
So,
All right, man. We've gone through just about everything I wanted to talk about. Anything else you want to hit?
I mean, honestly, I would say, couple things like just every month we do like that virtual 5K, like I mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
So with Holisic, it's virtual. So like there's this app called Strava. You ever heard of it?
Maybe. Is it the one that pays you, or that's a different
Well,
one?
that'd be nice. But I gotta check out that one, whatever you're talking about.
I'll find out the name.
Yeah, so no, it's just like a workout type equivalent app, and you're able to log your workout. So you can log
Okay.
like a walk or a hike or a bike ride or whatever. So we have like a little team on there, and we're focusing on continuing to grow that. Where at the last day of every month we do a 5K,
Okay.
and it's virtual, so you can do it like walk out your front door and hit it like you do.
Yeah.
And the whole idea is we're trying to build a community around that. Why the last day? The whole idea is the last day of a month, you do something like that, well, you start the next month fresh.
Right.
You start with like that mental uplift, right? So that's one thing that we're just really trying to like continue to grow. Music stuff, I mean, we're going to continue to have stuff coming out. Like, like I said, we're working on things. So like definitely excited for all that stuff. And then NRVE, like, if I could put like a PSA out, my real concern and like desire is having more people that want to get in on the ground and people that want to like, join the movement and help, especially people like in the media spaces such as yourself. Because we're now ramping things up for like fundraising
Yeah.
and getting more corporate donors to like build everything out so we can build this thing larger. So that's really about it, man. I just appreciate you having me.
All right, man. I appreciate you coming on. All right, guys. Y'all stay fed, and we're gonna talk some more off camera.
Yes, sir.